So when it comes to what we should define as man or a woman, my argument is this. We should settle on the definition that gives us the most utility or the most human happiness, whatever makes society the best possible. And for me, it seems like you could get a lot of social benefit from, treating gender like a thing trans women belong to. It makes trans women a hell of a lot happier, and it doesn't hurt anyone else.
And the ends justify the means of being weird, perverse,
messing
with your own biology.
So these are, again, arguments of intuition, but for me, since I'm a consequentialist, yeah, the ends do justify the means. If it ends up procuring a better world, then why not do it? If it makes people happier, why not do it?
Because what about the bloodshed and all the along the way to reach your ends that has to happen?
What bloodshed in calling trans women women? Where's the war?
The suicide, Vaush. That's the bloodshed.
Suicide. But they're less likely to commit suicide when you treat them like the gender they identify as. If you'd like,
that's bullshit.
Do you want me to provide you some data? Actually, research was found that if a trans youth has a parent who treats them well and recognizes them as the gender they identify as, their likelihood of suicidality decreases to 1/17th of what it was before. Not by 1/17th, to 1/17th. So parental support and being treated well and being treated as the gender you identify as makes it very unlikely that we have any suicidality at all. In fact, when we have the perfect case trans person, this is a person who has social support from their family and friends and who undergoes puberty blockers so they don't experience a male puberty and then transitions, this person mentally is in about the same ballpark as a cisgender woman of the same age. So, like, wow, with proper treatment, you can take a group of people who are suffering and you can give them a wonderful life that they can live fully and do whatever the fuck they want,
I don't really believe that, but okay.
I can't argue with you not believing in it.
I mean, you're saying that trans people... Okay. I mean, if you got the data, quote unquote, sure. I mean, I still think trans people are pretty damn suicidal, if you ask me.
Well, what do you think makes them suicidal?
This gets back to what I asked you before earlier, too, is what about the kid who has the botched youth or whatever when he's his parents push him into this gender, and then he comes to find out he doesn't want to be that gender, or she, whatever, and then they kill themselves. What about those suicides, Vaush?
What were they pushed into that they then regretted?
Becoming the gender that they don't identify with later on in life.
So this would have had to be, not only would they had to have passed extensive and years-long psychiatric review, but they would have had themselves years to contemplate this. You can, I mean, if you want to, you can make like a nightmare scenario where they're being gaslit by their entire family, but I could make that same argument for literally anything on Earth. I mean, I could make that for gastric bypass surgery. Like, what if every morning at 3 a.m. the parents sneak into the bedroom and bang dishes together to try to give the kid heart palpitations so that they can gaslight the kid into thinking they need a new aortal valve? I mean, you can, if you want to go down this road, you could say like literally anything as the parents gaslighting them. But
okay, sure. But I mean, are you saying no kid has ever, teen, whatever, has never killed themselves because they were pushed into this gender identity bullshit that they come to find out that they didn't want?
Of the billions, that's never happened before. Of the billions of humans who have lived, I can't say with confidence it's never happened. I can say, though, that what you just described has probably happened about 1/100,000th of the times that people have killed themselves because they weren't taken seriously.
So it's justified. It's just because it only happens sometimes, and it's not, that's okay.
Right. So yes, okay. Adopting a social policy which saves hundreds of thousands of people at the possible expense of several people is actually, yes, okay. That is how you determine social policies.
It's not okay because, like I said, what about those teens, those kids, few and far between, if you want to act like...
What about the kids common and everywhere who would kill themselves under the society that you're trying to build? You're essentially saying, let's let hundreds of thousands commit suicide because I don't want a couple people to commit suicide. And I'm saying I regret a couple people committing suicide, but if it saves hundreds of thousands of people, that's probably a better option. Like,
so you believe that the ends justify the means, and that okay?
I think
I think it's a
everyone
real
believes
dilemma.
if
If you
you
ask me,
I
I think
think
there's a real dilemma.
so I think
There's no winning because somebody is going to lose.
wait, so
Some
wait,
minority is going to lose.
which is better? Hundreds of thousands of people committing suicide or a few, like a handful of people committing suicide?
There is no better in this situation,
Wait,
Vaush, because
okay,
somebody's going to lose.
wait. Okay, hold on. Are you like are you like a nihilist? I feel like
No,
the
no.
entire structure of modern society is built around the idea that you have choices about where to allocate resources, and you should try to allocate them to places where the most good can be done, you know?
No, it's about everybody being happy 100%.
When have we ever achieved that?
Well, it's the goal, isn't it?
Well, then shouldn't we try to move towards that goal by helping the largest amount of people to the greatest extent possible? Like, isn't that as close as we can get to the goal, maximizing the positive distribution of resources?
You've got me in this ideological
You're
corner here.
literally
And I
arguing.
admit you got me in a corner.
Well, you're
I'm just
literally arguing that it's better to let hundreds of thousands of trans kids commit suicide than this
there's no
ridiculous edge case hypothetical of parents grooming their children into years of gender dysphoria and then they commit suicide because of that. Detransitioning is not super common, and when it does happen, it's overwhelmingly because of two things: a lack of money, for which it's expensive to transition medically, and secondly, a lack of social support. That trans people, usually trans women, get so disillusioned about their transition because their family and their friends have rejected them that they give up in the process, go back in the closet, and go run off somewhere else to live the rest of their life as a sort of in the closet trans person. And those people kill themselves more than any other group of people.
Well, I know this, Vosh. I know that there have been cases of suicides of botched gender reassignment surgery when they come into the doctors and they believe, oh, yeah, this doctor is going to magically turn my dick into a vagina or vice versa. And then it doesn't go like they planned. And it turns out you become this Frankenstein thing downstairs and it's permanent. And then they kill themselves because what the fuck are you going to do? I mean, I go on Reddit. I've seen the stories of the personal stories of people who had the bad botched gender reassignment surgeries. And this gets back to the whole thing I got to before, is that this gender reassignment stuff, the surgeries are not like is truth science. It's like
so first of all, there are cis people who kill themselves after getting cosmetic surgery that they don't like much anyway. I mean, that's hardly unique to the trans experience. There are plenty of people out there who
will
get
kill themselves for any reason if they're depressed enough.
yeah.
I mean, who knows what's going on in the mind of a suicidal person, trans or not? We really can't put ourselves in our shoes and say that's why they killed themselves, unless they leave some kind of suicide note and explicitly say, yeah, I killed myself for this reason. But for the most of the time, suicidal people don't really leave a note or any type of like anything behind saying, yeah, this is why.
No, I agree with that. And it is always a complicated and difficult process of understanding the underlying motivations. All I'm saying is that we should probably go with whatever social policies make the fewest possible people commit suicide, right? And by the way, we're only talking about suicidality, not about broader social acceptance, which affects millions of people. There are about between 3 and 6 million trans people in the United States, some under the trans umbrella, just something like that. We're talking about like a really large number of people, more trans people than there are redheads here in the States. So this is a large group of people. And if we can massively improve life quality for all of them, I think that's something worth pursuing. And it's possible that in doing so, there are edge cases where there are negative externalities, but we have to weigh those negatives against the positive of the broader social well-being. And the math really seems to edge in my favor.
Well, the math may edge in your favor, Vosh, but I am arguing for those edge cases because what about them? What about them, Vosh? Yeah, I'm arguing for a minority here. Sure. But what about them? I mean, are you just you're okay with that? You think that you've calculated it all. You've calculated the math of it, and you're like, okay, it's okay for these odd cases to happen. What about those odd cases? What is it about those edge cases that where it went wrong? And we need to examine that. We need to examine why these things can go so wrong.
Yeah.
For
So
some
here's
people.
what we can do. Okay. First of all, one of the best ways that we can avoid stuff like that from happening is through hormone blockers, because they give a years-long buffer in between feeling like you might be trans and actually committing to medical transition. The process of going on hormone blockers gives you a really long window of time that you can back out, therefore making errant or poorly reasoned medical decisions less likely. Additionally, what you should do is validate non-binary identities. See, a lot of people, well, hold on.
Okay.
If you're worried about people who may transition irresponsibly, then what you should do is try to normalize the social acceptance of people who have non-cisgender identities, but which isn't always correlated with biologically related surgery. So this is something you actually enable. Your definition of womanhood involves biological characteristics that trans women have to medically transition to meet some of them at least. But my definition of womanhood doesn't include that. Maybe what you're doing right now is pushing for more people to irresponsibly transition because they know they'll never get she-heard in public by people like you unless they look as close to a cisgender woman as possible. Whereas if you were willing to she-her a person who maybe had more masculine characteristics but had a pronoun tag on or something, they wouldn't feel the need to move on over biologically. You can make life more accepting for those people, and maybe then there will be fewer instances of people impetuously transitioning. Does that make sense?
I mean, you could say it makes sense. I mean, I'd say there's another aspect to it too, that you're arguing that, yeah, this is good for trans people, right? But is it good for the human race? Because we have a reproduction crisis. I mean, birth rates are steadily declining all across the world. And I believe there's a correlation with that between the whole trans phenomenon of recent and low birth rates and people not reproducing. So yeah, it's good for trans people, but it's really bad for straight people. And if you want to call that transphobic, I mean, I guess you can make that leap.
Well, I think,
But
I mean, I think we've only got so much room on the planet. We probably should taper our populations off at some point.
oh God, and now we're getting into the whole like population thing.
Well, wait, yeah, we can't always forever increase our population. We have a finite amount of space until we start colonizing the solar system, right? I mean, we can't.
Yeah, well, we definitely need to start colonizing the social.
It looks like our populations are rounding off. Isn't that a good thing? I mean, we don't want overpopulation. That would lead to a lot of really, really, really bad outcomes.
That's like saying we only have so much food, so we need to keep our population down to a certain extent, so that way everybody can eat, and everybody else we have to kill off. That's what you're saying.
Wait, we're not killing off anybody here. We're just talking about the natural economic and social processes of industrialization tapering off birth rates. We don't need to kill anyone off. But yes, actually, nature does regulate the population of animals by the available food supply. Now, because we're very smart and we can genetically modify crops, we can produce enough food for the whole planet, even with an overpopulated, like world. But we only have so much physical space, so we probably should be respectful of that, right? Like, what's wrong with birth rates going down? It's happening all over.
What's wrong with birth rates going down? Are you serious, Vaush? What's wrong with birth rates going down? Yeah,
I am
it's bad.
serious.
I mean, it's like the abortion thing. Like, what's wrong? Yeah, there's a lot wrong with it. Because what's the whole point of life then? What's the whole point of life if not to create more life? I mean, that's not a very life-affirming sentiment that we have to live within these means. It's not very life-affirming.
The replacement rate for America is 2.1 children per couple. You can have 2 kids. Is that not producing more life? Are you like Mormon? Do you want like 17 children?
I mean, kinda. I mean, I'm no polygamist, but
Well, I'm not advocating for laws to prevent you from having more kids, But you were saying it's a problem that the general birth rate is going down, which has nothing to do with trans people. It's